37 years later.
Someone is finally on trial for the murder of Janelle Matthews. Denver 7's Jason Grenauer tonight on the killing that shocked northern Colorado and the man prosecutors say is responsible.
She was a typical 12-year-old. She was loud. She loved everyone to know that she was in the room.
In December of 1984, Janelle Matthews got a ride home from a friend and her dad. They said they watched her walk inside and turn on the lights before leaving. By the time Janelle's father arrived an hour later, she was gone.
They see footprints in the snow. Shoe prints are on the back of the Matthews home, up a back staircase.
Janelle's case would remain cold until 2019, when a crew installing a pipeline in Weld County stumbled across her remains.
And that's where she laid for 36 years.
Wednesday, the trial began for the man accused of putting her there.
He is the individual we have been looking for 37 years.
Steve Pankey lived just a few miles away from the Matthews. District Attorney Michael Rourke says Pankey repeatedly inserted himself into the investigation.
Nobody knew who Steve Pankey was. Nobody had heard of him. His name had not come up in the investigation. He wasn't a person of interest, and yet he picks up the phone. And he calls Detective Jack Stotler.
Add to that several troubling statements made by Pankey over the years, including a confrontation with a police officer in the mid-90s.
He looks at her and says, "Don't with me. I've buried more people than you know." And when she said to him, "Where have you buried people?" his immediate, direct, one-word answer was, "Colorado."
But for all the evidence presented, prosecutors admit forensics are scarce.
The worst possible medium, the worst possible location to try and preserve DNA is buried in sand and soil, exposed to the elements for nearly 36 years.
Pankey's attorneys say their client's only offense is being a bit strange.
He's a little bit crazy, he's a busybody, he's a true crime junkie, he gets himself in the middle of murder cases, but that doesn't necessarily mean he actually was involved in them.
They argue it's absurd to think that Janelle could have been abducted by a stranger.
If someone like Mr. Pankey had abducted her, she would have kicked and screamed and fought, and someone would have heard it. And no one did.
Now, Pankey is charged with first-degree murder, felony murder, and second-degree kidnapping. His trial is expected to last around 4 weeks. Live in the newsroom, I'm Jason Grenauer, Denver 7.